like yesterday, but it was long ago. Jane, it was lovely, she was the queen of my night. There in the darkness with the radio playing low end, and the secrets that we shared, the mountains that we moved, caught like a wildfire out of control, till there was nothing left to burn and nothing left to prove. And I remember what she said to me, how she swore that it never would end. I remember how she held me oh so tight. Wish I didn't know now what I didn't know then. Against the wind, we were running against the wind. We were young and strong, we were running against the wind. And the years rolled slowly past, and I found myself alone, surrounded by strangers I thought were my friends. Found myself further and further from my home, and I guess I lost my way. There were oh so many roads. I was living to run and running to live, never worried about paying or even how much I owed. Moving 8 miles a minute for months at a time, breaking all of the rules that would bend. I began to find myself searching for shelter again and again. Against the wind, little something against the wind. I found myself seeking shelter against the wind. Against
Please help me out a little bit by sharing the stream right now. If you're not doing anything, please share the stream, put it somewhere on social media where you still exist, and then remind yourself to make the transition off of social media as soon as you possibly can. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. This is Gigaohm Biological, a high-resistance, low-noise information brief brought to you by a biologist. I come to you live from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in the back of my garage.
The rules, protect yourself at all times. Follow my instructions. Keep it clean, touch gloves if you wish, and let's do it.
Sweaty palms.
This is so crazy. Like goosebumps.
This is so crazy. I feel so
Nervous. Like, what in the world, man?
Matthias, son of Deuteronomy of Gath?
Do I say yes?
Yes.
Yes.
You have been found guilty by the elders of the town of uttering the name of our Lord, and so as a blasphemer, you are to be stoned to death.
Look, I'd had a lovely supper, and all I said to my wife was that piece of halibut was good enough for Jehovah.
Blasphemy! He said it again! Did you hear him? Are there any women here today? Very well. By virtue of the authority vested in me.
Oh, lay off, we haven't started yet.
Come on. Who threw that? Who threw that stone? Come on. Sorry, I thought we started. Go to the back. Oh, dear. Always one, isn't there? Now, where were we?
Look, I don't think it ought to be blasphemy. Just saying Jehovah.
You're only making it worse for yourself.
Making it worse? How could it be worse? Jehovah, Jehovah, Jehovah.
I'm warning you, if you say Jehovah once more. Right, who threw that? Come on, who threw that? Was it you? Yes. Right, well, you did say Jehovah. Will you? Come on. Now look, no one is to stone anyone until I blow this whistle. Do you understand? Even, and I want to make this absolutely clear, even if they do say Jehovah.
I don't care how you get there. I don't care what you do to get there. The goal is to win.
What time is it?
Game time! Woo!
We're killing people in Yemen. We're murdering like families in Yemen that aren't associated with any sort of terrorist thing. It was just an oopsie when we like killed a wedding party. And Obama, the fucking hope change guy, just refused to comment on it. That's cool, do what you want. It's not gonna change. Your voting is not gonna change that. I know one way that it'll change. I can look at history and tell you this is the way things change. Look at whenever a black guy gets shot, it's like, oh, it's bad. If this is a riot, no one comments on it. Those things go under the radar. When there's a riot in Baltimore, it's like, hold on, we got to rethink the system here in Baltimore because people went crazy. That's just in history, here and elsewhere. That's the only way shit changes.
All right, we'll agree to disagree on that.
And I guarantee the only thing they're going to show from this clip is Ari Shaffir doesn't say Amy Schumer is the most funny comic in the world.
Well, Gigaohm Biological would not only show the clip where you say that Amy Schumer is the funniest comic in the world. Who cares who's the funniest comic in the world? America has been sabotaged. Let's show the whole clip from this Obama-era American thought leader. And think very carefully about what I'm going to show you, because this man has been on Joe Rogan more than 50 times.
And what about politics?
I don't give a shit.
You don't find it a great
I really don't care
treasure
about politics.
trove of
Some people
material?
do. I don't. I think the system is corrupt. Every time I'm walking on the street, somebody's like, hey, vote for so-and-so. I'm like, it's all corrupt. Anarchy is the only way we're going to change anything. Violence. Kill a politician. That's the only way you can change shit.
What?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you're joking.
No.
Are you serious?
Yeah, voting is not going to make a difference. It has never. Not in 100 years.
So what would you like to see?
I'd like to see some politicians start getting murdered and reform this government.
Oh my God.
Do one that's not corrupted. I'd like to get business out of government, and they're not going to do it. So the only way to do that is start killing people.
Isn't that exactly what
Look
you
around the
don't
world.
want?
How has anything changed around the world? How has any regime change happen around the world? Violence. That's the only way. You think people in Arab countries are that much different than us?
Yeah.
Violence. That's the only way you depose a system that doesn't represent the people anymore.
I mean, I think the wonderful thing about the United States is that we can vote, and you do change
Your
administration.
vote doesn't go anywhere. Your vote doesn't do anything.
Yes, it does.
You can now be arrested and never tried if they say you're a terrorist. Never tried in your life. Just arrested and held forever. Who voted for that?
So shoot them all.
No, not shoot them all. Start shooting them until they get business out of politics and they start representing who we are instead of their money interests. Yeah, violence. That's the only way shit changes, man.
Okay.
Look at history. Tell me when a regime has changed with voting. I mean, I know.
I mean,
I'm not
trying.
That's not fair because you haven't studied this stuff.
Well, no, I'm not trying to, murder politicians. I'm not trying to do what I don't like that others do that I would like to change, so I will shoot somebody because I'm pissed off that they're shooting somebody else.
Yeah.
It's not the way that I think, but that's fine. We think differently.
I think even if you don't want to shoot somebody, don't vote. Voting is you complicitly saying, I support this system, and I don't support it anymore. I don't. We're killing people in Yemen. We're murdering families in Yemen that aren't associated with any sort of terrorist thing. It was just an oopsie when we kill a wedding party. And Obama, the fucking hope change guy, just refuses to comment on it. That's cool. Do what you want. It's not going to change. Your voting is not going to change that. I know one way that it'll change. I can look at history and tell you this is the way things change. Look at whenever a black guy gets shot, it's like, oh, it's bad. If this is a riot, no one comments on it. Those things go under the radar. When there's a riot in Baltimore, it's like, hold on, we've got to rethink the system here in Baltimore because people went crazy. That's just in history, here and elsewhere. That's the only way shit changes.
All right, we'll agree to disagree on that.
And I guarantee the only thing they're going to show from this clip is Ari Shaffir doesn't say Amy Schumer is the most funny comic in the world.
They have misled us for a long time, ladies and gentlemen. Why would that man have been on the Joe Rogan show more than 50 times? He was the third guest ever. America has been sabotaged by a long con, a national security priority that started probably before 9/11, is contiguous with it. Ladies and gentlemen, this message is brought to you by one family and 98 supporters. This message is not for everyone, but it is for anyone that wants to know the truth. This message is for mature audiences only. America has been sabotaged. RNA cannot pandemic. Intramuscular injection is just plain dumb. Population pyramids are real and podcasters are not. As crazy as it sounds, ladies and gentlemen, intramuscular injection is dumb. It's actually that simple, and these two women knew it. Social media is a trap for your mind. There is no way through. You must log off and delete the apps from all of your devices. This message is not for everyone, I understand that, but it is for anyone who really wants to be free. Podcasters are spellcasters. It's not even a Truman Show if you choose to walk into the theater, buy the popcorn, and believe. We have been sabotaged, ladies and gentlemen. Nobody else has gotten this far into the cave and gotten back out to tell you about it. No one. That's why no one else has a photograph like this and claims to know what it represents. I don't like being me and only me, but America is being sabotaged. And besides my friend Mark Kulak in Boston, Massachusetts, I don't know who else is able to say this, who has the courage to say this, who is attempting to make gentle the life of this world by breaking the illusion that we sustain only through our active participation on social media. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. This is Gigaohm Biological. It's been a long, long road to January 12th, 2026. I am very happy to be here with you. I took a few days off to try and reorient. At some moment in time after New Year's, I thought I was going to put together a streak of shows, and it ended up to be just 7 days. But in that 7 days, I learned a lot about my message and how I want it to evolve, in the sense of how I want to differ in delivering it. It may be that we will do less live streaming. It may be that we will do more video production. It may mean that we're going to find other ways to make this work. I think I'm going to switch over here. And then, no, that's not the right one. This one's the right one. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. This is Gigaohm Biological. My name is JJCouey. I come to you live from the back of my garage in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It is kind of wintry again. A couple days that I took off were actually quite warm, abnormally warm, weirdly warm. Hot dog breath kind of warm. So definitely winter is back. I hope that you are starting to understand the reality here. This is not sustainable on Twitch or on YouTube or on Rumble or on any of these other platforms for me. And the reason why is because I have to do Y, in the sense of, if I believe X, I need to do Y. I need to take action. And if I believe that social media is a trap for our mind and is a theater, a stage that we cannot actually participate in, and certainly a stage on which we cannot change the activity on, that we can't change what these actors are going to do, what they're going to say, the drama they're going to enact. And even if we were to manage to force the cast to respond to our noise, their response will still be coordinated on a script, even if they have to improvise their way back to it from the noise that we make. And so in reality, after 6 years of practice, these people are really good at it. And so, yes, I do think that we've seen some rearranging of the deck chairs. But the reality is, as far as I can track my growth, as far as reach and daily views and number of clips and number of new emails that we get, is absolutely, it's nothing. We have had no growth at all. I don't make this joke or say this lightly. It is absolutely extraordinary how we actually lose the same number of subscribers as we gain every month on a good month. It is remarkable to believe that in somewhere around 2021, we had more than 121 subscribers to Gigaohm Biological that were giving about $10 a day. Some were giving more, but most give 10. Not $10 a day, my bad, $10 a month. And we are now at 98. And so the growth has been zero. I mean, I'm not suggesting to you that's a significant decrease, but it's remarkable because even though the people that we do hear from say that we have changed their lives or saved, lives of their family members or helped, it doesn't feel like anybody is really doing anything to share the stream. And I mean that sincerely, because I don't think if this were to go as it should go, given the amount of information that's here, the amount of goodwill that's here, the amount of integrity that this show represents, in my humble opinion, by now we should have enough followers to be able to, this ship should float by itself, and it doesn't. And we have accepted that a long time ago. And we have worked part-time jobs for a while now in order to make ends meet here. And we're fine with that. The family is fine with that. I am fine with that. But it's a struggle. And the only way to explain how this is a struggle is not to say, well, if Jay was on Substack a little more, or if Jay spent a little more time on Facebook, or if, there were more clips being made and posted on Instagram, or I don't know, fill in the blank. Maybe if Jay was on TikTok a little more. This is all nonsense. The bottom line is that the people that watch me are hoping someone else will share it. The people that watch me are, maybe they enjoy what I'm doing. Maybe they feel very vindicated by the claims that I make, the patterns that I try to point out. But for some reason or another, I don't think this medium, what I'm doing right here, seems to stimulate enough people to encourage others. And so we're going to have to find other ways of doing that. I'm going to kind of stop asking people to do that, because I know that people that actually watch the show right now don't do it. So why would I keep asking you guys to do it when I know that you don't? Maybe part of the reason that you don't share is because you're already off of social media. And so then in some ways we are already accomplishing our goal, but then I need to reorient you and remind you that we still need to get the word out. And the way, in my humble opinion, of getting the word out would be to simultaneously get the word out about independent ways of communicating with a following, ways of building a following or making content available that isn't dependent on corporate provided social media, which is essentially militarily either controlled. See, there's windows opening on the other side of this computer all the time now. I'm sure that it's been broken into and taken over, and it's part of the reason why the stream breaks up on Twitch regularly, but it never breaks up on PeerTube, so I'm not too worried about it. It never breaks up on the hard drive that I'm recording it on. So this is quite a lot of work. It's, we need our days off every once in a while, so I'm going to keep doing that as necessary. I will say, quite frankly, let's do that. Since the start of the pandemic, when I was on YouTube, until now in 2026, I will humbly submit that very few people have made as much progress in their understanding and in their ability to succinctly present that understanding, especially about the pandemic, than Gigaohm Biological. And that's just a very long road that we have walked, and many of you have walked it with us, and I think that's really nice, because that means that there are people that actually understand why I'm standing up and dancing. But more than anything, I need more of you to stand up and dance, and that means that, maybe you need to make a little business card with this information on it. Encourage people to download Gigaohm Biological PeerTube, and then, put in stream.gigaohm.bio and start, watching our videos with no chance of watching anything else. And then make that argument to them that, anybody that was really trying to, save or activate or build an alternative would be at least hosting their own stuff. They wouldn't be using all of the corporate, landscape to distribute their things. That's like, okay, so you're making very, very nice handmade wooden trinkets, and then your first thing is to sell them on Amazon. I mean, I don't know. When you could have your own website, it just seems like somewhat a cop-out. And if you already know that you're going to invest in one of these or the other of these, then I think we need to start being realistic here and understand that if, you're going to watch cable TV, then that's what you're going to get. And social media, as far as corporate social media goes, that's just cable TV. And I'm trying to set an example with Gigaohm Biological on PeerTube because it is a platform that you can have on your cell phone, that you can have on your device, that will serve up my work to you without you needing to log in or pay or share your personal data in any way with a corporation at all. I can't guarantee you that Apple's not doing that. I can't guarantee you that Google's not doing that, or that your internet provider is not doing that. But this PeerTube host and the PeerTube app, as far as I can tell, is open code, and that code does not seem to indicate that any personal data, is required. You're not going to have to, check your email and click on a link in order to confirm your login on PeerTube. That is crucial to understand. And so it breaks my heart to say it, but there is only one way out, and that means that at some point in time we are just going to have to stop uploading videos to YouTube. We are going to have to stop just checking, seeing what's going on here. Yeah, that looks right. We are going to have to stop using Twitch. We are going to have to. And so if you want to see it, it's not very hard. I can put the chat from PeerTube up there, and it shows up. I don't know when that was for the last chat. We can do the same thing with Twitch, of course. But time is still absolutely positively too valuable of an asset, and we cannot give away this material. If you want it on YouTube, you could start your own Gigaohm fan YouTube channel, just like there are all kinds of accounts of this guy Sneeko, who's supposedly just on Kick, but he's got fans that have fan accounts. There's like 10 fan accounts on X. There's like 10 fan accounts on Facebook, and that's not really explainable. But it is something that we together could replicate. All of the videos on PeerTube right now should be downloadable. If they are not downloadable, they will be in the next version of, I thought that it was the last version of PeerTube that it was going to be that way. And if not, and people are very much interested in this is something that I can easily provide. It's just that nobody has ever expressed interest in, say, starting their own YouTube channel, starting their own Facebook group, which I, again, encourage you to do. I don't think that there is any way for anybody, and I challenge you to do it, because at least somebody would then bringing attention to something that I'm doing, try to edit it in a way that makes it seem like we don't have a message, I guess, and, go ahead, do it. Do whatever you want. We are crushing it here right now because it's no longer about the minutiae of biology and whether or not we're right about this particular word or that particular word. It's now just about the big picture. And the big picture is really, really easy to crack, because the big picture is that people haven't made any progress. And it's not right. Paul Offit is just not right as a professional. He should be ashamed of himself because he's a 15-year plus failure. Because despite having the truth on his side, he hasn't managed to snuff out the anti-vax industry in America. And the anti-vax industry is a 15 to 20-year failure because despite the vaccine schedule in America apparently being the equivalent to a Nazi death camp, they haven't been able to make any progress in messaging that to the greater public at all. Now that's a pretty remarkable thing to believe is a foundation of reality. A working assumption is that Paul Offit is a 25-year failure, but still on the news and still credited in the Chiron as a expert with all the truth on his side, but he just can't beat that handsome muscle man, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I mean, imagine the kind of damage Robert F. Kennedy Jr. could have done with my voice. Oh my gosh, that would have been scary. And so that's the absurd trap that we are in. And there are easy ways to see through it, but when you see through it as an American, you must have sympathy for all those, including yourself, who didn't see through it. And make no mistake about this message, ladies and gentlemen, I want to be very clear. The message is, if you think that Donald Trump is an idiot or a mastermind, you fell for it. If you think that Americans, by more than a majority, voted for Donald Trump, you fell for it. If you think that Biden and his team stole the election, you fell for it. The whole thing is a show. Even the idea that Obama tried to sabotage the election of Donald Trump or the transition of Donald Trump or something like that with the Russians or something, that's all part of this theater. None of it real. Just like, is Obama really an American citizen? Is his birth certificate real? Completely fake. That's a stupid drama. It was a distraction. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got to wake up to how long we've been played. Barack Obama is not the black man America would have elected. Let me say that very clearly. Barack Obama is not the black man that America would have elected. We've been told that America made a great choice with Barack Obama and that many, many, many Americans made the right choice with Barack Obama. And that made the majority of Americans feel good about what America was and who America was. And so as Barack Obama did what that guy described and, bombed Yemen with drones and got the Nobel Peace Prize before he had even been in office for a week, made great relations with India, fought Ebola, and put together a team of people that essentially was put back in power right at the beginning of the Biden administration that knew all about Ebola and stuff, breakouts and outbreaks. That's how you can see the seamless transition was not even a transition, because the same public health team that was in with Obama remained basically in the background and then in power again, and then in the background and then in power again, because it is a seamless theater. And it's always the same sort of equation, because half of the country roughly is capable of believing that some people in the cast are scripted retarded. They're happy to accept that. Some people on the left are happy to accept that Biden might not have been in charge, but at least it wasn't the Republicans. Some Republicans are happy to accept that, well, Donald Trump might be an idiot, but I'm sure the people that put him there are better than the people that would have put Harris in power. That may be even true. But it all works under the assumption that those people in power are actually driving the boat, actually making decisions, and talking to the engine room. because that's just ridiculous. And all the people on the military software that we have become accustomed to calling social media, all of those people that have any reach at all have programmed reach, permission to have reach, and they are on script. And so if you want to avoid that theater, you can't swim in it. If you want to avoid that theater, you can't get on a motorcycle and get on the racetrack. If you want to avoid that theater, you can't put on a costume and get on stage. That's not how you avoid the theater. You get up out of your seat and you walk out. And the way you do that, one of the ways that you can do that is with PeerTube. So, the first thing you need to do is download PeerTube. I cannot tell you that, Apple doesn't put something in there or that Google doesn't put something in there. I just know that PeerTube is better than YouTube. It's better than Rumble. And as far as I can tell, I am capable of managing the website and servers that serve this, website that I'm going to ask you to put in. So you download the app and you open PeerTube on your device and you get to this screen where you hit this explore button on the bottom here. And you don't want to search content, but instead you want to click on show more platforms. So if you do that, that's one. And then number two, you click on show more platforms, then you got to put in something so that it starts to do something else. So you're going to type in Giga here. And it's not going to find anything. So then what it's going to do is show you this button. It's going to say no platform found. And then that button's going to appear. When that button appears, you can click on that one. And then you can put stream.gigaohm.bio in there and hit connect. And Bob will be your uncle, and you will be in 2026 with this on your phone. The nice handy thing is that there's a Housatonic.live, stream.housatonic.live that is also available, so you can have both my work and Mark's work on your phone with their own icon, with an own list. And so there are going to be no ads. There's going to be no suggestions to watch Dr. Drew or some other dumb shit. It's just going to be this. And if you don't click on the app on your phone, then you'll never see it. Because that's the way it's going to be. Not very long from now. It's just a warning. If there are any videos on YouTube or Rumble, they will be videos that say, get the hell off of YouTube and Rumble and download the PeerTube app. There's only one way forward, ladies and gentlemen. And if I can't do it the way that I'm trying to do it now because I can't get enough people to share the work so that it grows in some way on these platforms, then we are really wasting our time with those platforms. And we may even be damaging our own work by putting it on those platforms and giving it to them, making it available to them on their servers so they can do whatever the hell they want with it. Which is one of the reasons why I don't make a Substack right now, because I don't want them to have access to my thoughts, especially not before I publish them. So how this works is that people have gone to Gigaohm Biological and subscribed for $10 a month. That's the usual thing. There is a way to subscribe for $273 a month, which is again an artifact of the 2020 plan to provide some kind of PDF news brief every week, but that's an incredible amount of work, which should already show you how ridiculous it is that all of these people are producing a Substack every day, when I conceded many years ago that producing a 1 or 2 page PDF about what I was reading and why it would be important for you to read it too was already too much work for me to handle. Think about this, ladies and gentlemen. What you see here is the result of choices and priorities, right? I prioritize trying to make a presentation that has as many distracting images in it as possible and as many moving things as possible because, I guess I'm paid for by somebody to distract people from the truth, and I'm succeeding so well that, I guess, look, let's be very honest one more time. There is no one else on social media that's going to tell you that America has been sabotaged by social media use. Not one person is going to tell you that. Somebody's going to tell you that there's Satanists around or that Satan is doing things. Other people are going to tell you it's the Jews. Other people are going to tell you it's the Chinese. What I'm telling you is it's Americans sabotaging America with the cooperation of other foreign interests, absolutely. With other weaponized piles of money, any they can get their hands on, absolutely. And the reason why is very simple. Intramuscular injection is just plain dumb. Specifically, it's a dumb idea from around 1910. Because that's when it started to become so ubiquitous, the use of hypodermic needles to administer morphine and opioids and whatever else they did, that we eventually transitioned into also administering other combinations of things hypodermically to cure all kinds of other ailments. And as this proliferated more and more and more, intramuscular injections started to be something that was also done accidentally and on purpose, but most of the time accidentally, without the actual confirmation or, the knowing of the physician. And so as this became acceptable or unquestioned, this error started to be made. Maybe the first time that this error was made was with the polio vaccine. At least egregiously. Maybe the first time that this happened was when the polio vaccine was given intramuscularly for the first time with what they say was not attenuated virus, or it wasn't killed or something like that, the Cutter incident. That's what we're told, is that it was, a mistake and it was an active virus. But what if it was just the intramuscular application of a vaccine that was supposed to be subcutaneous? Hypodermic. I'm not saying I know. I'm saying that from a biological perspective, it makes much more sense to say intramuscular injection is just plain dumb, because it most certainly is. Population pyramids are most certainly real, and they are probably the reason why the countries that participated the most vigorously in the COVID narrative theater were those countries with the most egregious population pyramid problems. Now, there are population pyramid problems on Earth that are unfixable, like South Korea, like China, like Scotland. But America is not an unfixable population pyramid. You just have to accept the fact that the population pyramid is a national security priority, that spans decades, and thereby would necessarily dictate that in order to manage that problem, there would need to be national security actors put in place that could be scripted to take care of that problem. And so social media is definitely a trap for your mind. There is no way through. You must log off and delete the apps. You can put your email address or your website on the app and leave your profile there, but I do think that you need to get these programs off of your devices and out of your houses, because that's the way we get free. And don't worry, there's lots of other ways to follow people. You can follow people using Mastodon, and although it's not perfect, it does work. You can follow your family, your friends, even your favorite journalists will inevitably have a Truth Social or something like that, which translates exactly to the same thing that our soapbox is. It is just a freestanding instance of a Twitter clone, and they are all linked in the sense of you can follow accounts on other platforms, and it's, again, as I said, not perfect, but it's something that when you refresh it, you will see the people that you're supposed to see when you want to see them, and only them. You can block anybody you want to.
I'm not trying to do what I don't like that others do that I would like to change,
And so I started the program with this video, and I'm skipping the part where for about 5 minutes the comedian talks about how we should kill politicians. I don't think killing politicians will help anything, because that would be like killing the Star Trek actors. That would just, how is that going to change the plot of the Star Trek Like, it won't change the plot at all. If you kill the actor that plays the science officer on Star Trek The Next Generation, are they going to end the show? Or are they going to do a little, dedication to him at the end of the next episode and replace him with a relatively similar actor? So I think this is where we really need to start with. This is where we need to
We'll
start.
shoot somebody because I'm pissed off that they're shooting somebody else.
Yeah.
It's not the way that I think, but that's fine. We think differently.
I think even if you don't want to shoot somebody, don't vote. Voting is you complicitly saying, I support this system. And I don't support it anymore. I don't. We're killing people in Yemen.
So what I see here is the setup, because this is when Obama is in office. So they are tempting as many Americans as possible to turn on Obama. And you know that happened. You know that happened because Obama was as much of a play on the American public as Donald Trump was, because in the same way that America was tricked into believing that a good majority voted for him, that America chose Barack Obama as their black president, they have been tricked into believing that twice, non-consecutively, a majority of Americans has chosen Donald Trump.
Stop lying!
It's just not true. I don't believe it. I don't think we've ever been shown any convincing evidence other than nightly news broadcasts that this is true. And instead, we have been led to believe by many of the same actors that these elections are actually stolen. And the remarkable irony is that it's on both sides that they think that the election was stolen for the other one twice. And so it's, the Republicans think that Biden stole the election, and the Democrats think that the Russians stole the election for Donald Trump. I mean, this is, of course, an absurd dichotomy of scripted retarded. And once you see it, then you need to be ashamed of yourself as an American for having fallen for it all the way back then. A little bit. Just a little bit ashamed, and then understand that can go away, because we were victimized by perhaps the most magnificent military psychological operation in the history of mankind. Barack Obama, Donald Trump, Joe Biden, Donald Trump. That's a pretty remarkable psyop. And it actually goes back one farther, right, to George W. Bush. Now, I'm not saying that suddenly a bunch of people took control after 9/11 and suddenly all those people. No, what I'm saying is that 9/11, as Mark has tried to argue, was already the culmination of 20 years of bureaucratic prep and, Giordano-esque presentations in the background where people were talking about bioterror and anthrax and bioterror and Ebola and people like Giordano were going around in the background telling people about these threats. And at the culmination of at this 9/11 event, I think that if I was to say put my own spin on what Mark Kulak is currently brewing up and really, the only guy in the world that has taken it to this level, is that what could have been said in the background is different than what was probably said in public. And so in public, of course, they said it was the terrorists. In public, they made movies about the terrorists and how the terrorists and the hijackers, and it was the terrorists and stuff, and the planes and whatever. And in private meetings, in classified meetings, I think it would be very easy for somebody like Giordano or Robert Malone or maybe David Hone to tell a story about, well, one thing we're lucky is that actually those planes were meant to be full of a biological agent, but they weren't. And so if that story was told after 9/11, the combination of terrorism internationally, hijacking planes, and the idea of bioterrorism having not happened, but definitely could have, because of all they need is a crop duster, but they were able to get intercontinental, jets from an airport. Well, holy shit, it's easier to get crop dusters. So obviously the bioterror threat is not only real, it's even more real now, because if these guys could get jets, then certainly they could get the crop dusters they were training on. Now, think about this a little further. What does that mean from a national security perspective? It means that they had to take control of the show. It means that there was a threat that was so great and so grave that we might not want to leave these elections up to chance anymore. We might not be able to. We might not be able to risk a transition anymore. We might need to have an apparatus in place because, look, they just destroyed buildings. We almost lost the head of our government because they almost crashed the plane into the White House, remember? That's what we were told. And so after 9/11, a shadow government was set up by Dick Cheney. And I don't know that shadow government ever went away. In fact, I think it's very likely that it didn't. And we are witnessing a continuous front-facing theater that consists of politicians that are limitedly, on a need-to-know basis, read in on this national security script, signed up officially so that, they can be removed officially if necessary. But we are being governed on social media by that theater. Social media is a willing acceptance of being governed by clowns. And if you use it, that's what you are accepting. There's no way out. There's no way through. And I think that the only way to save America and the only way to save the other countries of the West is to encourage people in those countries as well to get off of social media. Do not vote for politicians that use social media with any effectiveness at all, because that can only be programmed. By definition, it won't work unless it's programmed to work. If you are choosing your champion from these people during the Obama administration, you would have chose somebody like this guy in the flannel, a pretty sharp comedian with a nice voice, maybe because he's been on Joe Rogan so often. What in the world does it mean to you that this man has been on Joe Rogan more than 50 times and was his third ever guest?
We're murdering like families in Yemen that aren't associated with any sort of terrorist thing. It was just an oopsie when we kill a wedding party. And Obama, the fucking hope change guy, just refused to comment on it. That's cool. Do what you want. It's not going to change. Your voting is not going to change that. I know one.
And so if you can please try to have the memory to recall how often we were told that voting doesn't matter. But if voting doesn't matter and people don't vote, then when they're told that somebody wins, what can they do? If they're told that half the country voted for Donald Trump and all they know is they didn't vote, well, then what can you do? What can you argue about? What can you say? What do you know? You didn't even wait in line or talk to anyone, and so the impression you have is completely based on nothing. And they worked hard. It wasn't just this guy during the Obama administration to burn people out, to make people disappointed. That's what that was all about, to get as few people participating as possible so that when Donald Trump was told to you that Donald Trump won, you would be confused enough to accept it. Confused enough to accept the numbers that you're given because you didn't participate, because your vote doesn't mean anything anyway. If that's true, then Donald Trump did not get elected despite the bankers. He didn't get elected despite the ruling overclass elite Venetians. He didn't get elected because the Jews. He didn't get elected because of the Russians. If this guy believes what he says, then Obama didn't get elected. Do you see the point? Then Biden didn't get elected, then Trump didn't get elected, then Trump didn't get elected, then Hillary didn't lose. It's not a message for everybody. I know it's not a message for everybody. It's a dark one. It's a very, very dark one. But once you see it, you don't have any of this. You're not left with any spite for other Americans anymore. You're not left with any sadness about your neighbors. The people that you meet at Home Depot don't disappoint or frighten or bother me as much anymore, because I understand that what I encounter at these stores, what I encounter at these basketball games are humans that are dealing with a trauma that they don't understand. They've been mentally enslaved and they don't understand how it happened. And they think that, they're good enough at using the military software that they can sit at their kids' basketball game and scroll Instagram and learn things. And I think we need to fight tooth and nail to teach our children that that's the opposite of freedom. And that if anything, we should be, encouraging our children to start up companies that make dumb phones that work great for connecting with family and friends. And that's it.
Way that'll change. I can look at history and tell you this is the way things change. Look at whenever a black guy gets shot, it's like, oh, it's bad. If this is a riot, no one comments on it. Those things go under the radar. When there's a riot in Baltimore, it's like, hold on, we've got to rethink the system here in Baltimore because people went crazy. That's just in history, here and elsewhere. That's the only way shit changes.
All right, we'll agree to disagree on that.
And I guarantee the only thing they're going to show from this clip is Ari Shaffir doesn't say Amy Schumer is the most funny comic in the world.
Amy Schumer is definitely not funny, but also the fake conservative health freedom movement is most certainly not funny. What Brian Hooker has done to America is not funny. What Mary Holland has done to America is not funny. What Suzanne Humphreys up there at the top and James Lyons Weiler has done to America is not funny. And very few people have made it as far as me. I don't think that there's any other conclusion to come to except that these two ladies were murdered in 2020 because they were loose ends that couldn't be tied up. I think I'm a loose end that can't be tied up, but it's a problem because that book is out there. If Brandy Vaughn's name was in this book as an expert and Tony Bark's name was in this book as an expert, that would be a little weird, wouldn't it? And so I think in some ways this book ended up to be my safety net. They just have to stop talking about him and pretend it doesn't exist. And Tony Lyons just has to keep streaming with all the other books behind him and not this one. And they just have to pretend it doesn't exist for 5 more years, right? Because that by then the enslavement will be complete because of whatever other stoogery they're going to pull here. Obviously, we know this is not over. I'm not commenting on Venezuela yet, but I mean, what is there to comment on? If you believe that these things are out of our control because they're in the power, in the control of the overclass, then what are you tweeting about? And I think that's really the end of this. That's really the end of it. Because if you don't have anything to say, why are you podcasting? If you don't want to learn anything or you don't have an objective to learn something, why are you podcasting? And so, I believe that. And so I'm going to put my money where my mouth is, put my actions where my mouth is. And so I'm getting off of social media. I'm not going to be there anymore. My only presence there will be to divert people back off of it and try to advocate for people to start doing it themselves. Start requiring that the people that they think that they trust actually behave as the patriotic Americans they claim to be. And then, of course, that will take some pain because the illusion is complete. I don't care who you follow on YouTube with a huge following. They're all fake. Doesn't matter how cute or how charming or how handsome they are all scripted actors with a huge staff, social media marketing managers, and most importantly, a list of things that they don't say because they're dumb, because they've agreed to it, because they have a handler or a staff of handlers. Brandy and Tony were killed. And they were killed in order to make sure that the anti-vax, health freedom, the skeptical movement in America could be controlled by Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Mary Holland, Del Bigtree, and Brian Hooker. That's why there are many photographs with those people and these people. And yet those people did not either mourn their death, nor do they eulogize their anniversary of their death, nor do they remember any of the teachings, any of their ideas. And that is because these people are scripted traitors to our grandchildren. Mary Holland, Meryl Nass, Brian Hooker, Del Bigtree, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Robert Malone, Kevin McKernan, Ryan Cole, Peter McCullough. These are some of the worst Americans that have ever lived. Just simply by sheer number of Americans that they've lied to and deceived, these people are on a new level of scum. There aren't enough dump trucks of refuse appropriate to airdrop on them. There just isn't. And I don't know all the different ways that I'm going to continue to work to get this out, but I assure you I'm going to continue to get this out. And what is this? This right here, intramuscular injection, is dumb. It is the only and most spectacular place to start with anybody that claims to be an authority on this issue. Whether they call themselves a vaccinologist or a general practitioner, a nurse, or a biology student, these are the words to start with. Intramuscular injection is dumb. I have textbooks that show that it is dumb. That's why they wrote it in textbooks. Ladies and gentlemen, what evidence do I have that intramuscular injection is dumb? That's the idea that they are hiding. I have several historical texts that indicate that hypodermic injection was exactly as the name suggests, and that nurses used to be taught to aspirate to avoid blood vessels in the skin, not the muscle. No one else alive has arrived here after these many years. I just don't believe that that's by accident. I cannot believe that that is because I am some kind of genius. There is no frickin' way. The reason why no one in front of us on social media, no one with a book, no one with a nonprofit, no one with a TV show, no one with a following has ever managed to get here. No one that the Lord has talked to, the Lord has spoken to or called has managed to get here. And that is because it is a military script. It is scripted, retarded. These people are frauds, and you can identify them because they haven't gotten here. And there are books that you can buy on eBay. Brandy taught in her seminars, that's Brandy Vaughn, taught in her seminars that there is a huge biological difference between ingestion and injection. She taught this at Cal Jam on the same stage that Sherry Tenpenny and Suzanne Humphries and all these other frauds that later will get on Joe Rogan were on, she taught it succinctly and beautifully. And no one else took up this idea even after she was murdered. No one has managed not to die has taken on this idea in any way, shape, or form except for me. That's kind of odd. Not ICANN, not CHD, not Humphreys, not Nass, not Hooker, no one. That should be striking. Serum sickness is mentioned by no one ever. Serum sickness is a very common term in the old books. It's something that happens when the kidneys get dysregulated. It was connected to intramuscular injection of stuff. Serum sickness is what it was called. No one ever talks about this. It's a kidney thing. And funny, Humphreys was a kidney specialist, which is kind of cute, isn't it? Isn't that kind of cute? Tony was an ER doctor at a major Chicago hospital at Rush Presbyterian, actually. When she spoke up about injection, she was running an ER. The ER that's actually across the street from Cook County Hospital ER, which was the ER that they modeled the TV show with Clooney after, that was called ER. I can't stress enough how much of a badass you need to be somebody who can run an ER as the supervising resident. Like that's not like, you know, the shift leader of the snowplow guys. No insult intended. That's not the same as being the head math teacher. That's not the same as being the, I don't know, the head of the teachers union. Somebody that can come in and captain a military battleship is not just anybody with, you know, a few weeks experience. Only a few people on Earth have the technical and experiential qualifications to sit at the helm of a battleship and order the people around in a way that makes that battleship function as intended. It takes years of training and work in order to attain that level of experience. For this woman to be skeptical of the vaccine schedule and the ever-increasing number of shots, and to be speaking out, and then to die and be replaced by somebody as inept as Mary Holland, as frumpy and dopey acting as Brian Hooker, as obviously fraudulent as Polly Tommy from the UK, as obviously fraudulent as Andrew Wakefield from the UK. America's doctor from Rush Presbyterian Hospital just happened to get some kind of very acute cancer and die. Just like Peter Wolf, I think, died of the same cancer in the same time frame. Some clown that I guess used to know Robert Malone or something like that. She was the head of Rush Presbyterian Hospital's ER. This is not a chump. This is not the equivalent of Sherry Tenpenny or Suzanne Humphries. This is a beast of a woman. And she was murdered because she was skeptical of the vaccine schedule. She didn't have a specific story about a kid or kids that were injured by a particular shot. Because that's not what a real skeptic would do, would think. That's not what a scientist or a doctor would do or think. And so when you hear those interviews, when you listen to her talk, she doesn't claim to know. Like, say, I don't know, Polly Tommy claimed to know. Like Polly Tommy claimed to have cured it. Like Andrew Wakefield claimed to have cured it for a couple years. Like then Mary Holland claims that her son was damaged by MMR. That Brian Hooker claims that it was 5 shots while he had an ear infection that got his son. She doesn't have those kinds of claims. She has years of experience and noticing a pattern. And more importantly, she also noticed the pattern of ignorance among her colleagues, ignorance in the curriculum, and a military avoidance of the inspection of that schedule and its application. This is an unacceptable level of understanding here. And at the beginning of the pandemic, when the Human Genome Project and its necessary remnant stream was about to be established, because make no mistake about it, they are using PCR in our hospitals right now to sample all of the genomes from everybody there, because they need this remnant stream going so that they can start to build an iterations of the infrastructure that will eventually be able to regularly sample the genomes of people and monitor gene expression, yada, yada, yada. Whatever they imagine they're going to do requires this regular remnant stream. They are not done with trying to convince our children that they should be tested regularly. They are not done with trying to convince parents that testing regularly is normal, that in order to go into a hospital you should put on a mask and maybe be tested positive or negative. This is not going to go away. This is just going to be steady pressure for the next probably 20 years. It's a generational pressure move. And we're arguing about all kinds of other things while the FDA abdicates all of its responsibility to regulate these as medical devices, because that's what these diagnostics are. They're medical devices. So the safety and the effectiveness of these medical devices is the direct mandate of the FDA. And rather than going back to 2020 and seeing if any of these diagnostics in this class of products is useful, they have instead decided that the pandemic has proven that they are all useful, and they're not regulating it at all. And coincidentally, we have several foreigners at the head of the FDA who are bragging about how they are even speeding up the approval of previously unapproved genetic and other biological transfection type therapeutics. This is not by accident. This is by design. And if these two guys were around, there would be a lot more noise and a lot more people following them than would otherwise are following, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Mary Holland and Polly Tommy. And many of those people don't even know who these ladies are. And that is absolutely by design. So Nurse Campbell on YouTube was scripted to talk about aspiration of the needle, but did not distinguish between injection locations, and that's pretty funny. That's actually really funny because, again, remember that I have a book from 1966, I believe. From the Teachers College at Columbia University. It's a brief guide to hypodermic injection, complete with graphical representation. And the basic gist of it is that this whole thing is about hypodermic injection and how to avoid injecting in the muscle, how you can tell you're going too deep. I have pictures like this one. Why would they need a device like this? I'll read the back of it. It says, hypodermic injection shown at the annual convention of the American College of Physicians in Chicago that is said to eliminate the pain and the shock of the old method of forcing the needle into the skin. A guard is held against the skin as shown, and the release of a trigger shoots the needle into the proper penetration depth into the skin so suddenly that it can hardly be felt. And so that's what that picture is supposed to be. A device, maybe I can go over here and show you. A device that you spring loaded and then it goes in the proper amount. So that's not the right one. You need to put in That is the right address. I don't know why you're doing gigaohm.biological.com. I've never said that out loud ever. My website is gigaohmbiological.com. There's no dot in between the other two words. And PeerTube needs stream.gigaohm.bio. But thanks for trying. I hope it works for you. So this is the hypodermic injection book. This is just real. This is just a real book about hypodermic injection and teaching you not to do it in the muscle. This is just a device that was developed in order to make it easier for doctors to hit the right depth, because, the right depth is important. It's a very interesting conundrum that we find ourselves in if suddenly we could use just a little longer needle, just push it all the way in. When biologically speaking, the difference between that little centimeter long needle going halfway in, so being about 6 or 8 millimeters below the epidermis, there's a pretty big difference between that and the deltoid muscle. From a physiological perspective, from an immunological perspective, from a distribution perspective, and from a temporal perspective. And there is no way to explain how this picture and that device were to exist. There's no way to explain the existence of this book unless you also want to accept that these things are bad ideas. This intramuscular injection being equivalent to hypodermic injection is a bad assumption. And that working assumption is what all of this smoke and mirrors is supposed to hide. That's what all of this smoke and mirrors is supposed to hide. Because it is that simple. That's why Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has been scripted to say for more than 15 years that he doesn't think that anything should be mandated. And that's why for 15 years, Paul Offit hasn't been able to beat him. Because it's this simple, and they've known it since Hillary Koprowski, they've known it since Stanley Plotkin, and that's why also Aaron Siri can't win, because he's scripted retarded. Nurse Campbell is scripted retarded. Marc Girardeau of Panda, who wrote a book about the bolus theory, is scripted retarded. He was promoted by Campbell, and it's in the exact same misrepresentation. That as long as you don't inject it in the blood, anywhere is fine. And that is just wrong. And that is the reason why this book exists. That's the reason why this exists. That's why all this other stuff on my desk and on my shelf exists, because intramuscular injection is a dumb idea. It does not have a physiological basis for being good. It is a working assumption that somewhere in here just got slipped in and hidden. And I don't know why. I don't think it's really my obligation to tell you why. I can just tell you why the anti-vax movement is scripted wrong. Why Paul Offit must be scripted wrong. He's not trying. Strikingly, the TWIV virus show and Angela Rasmussen, one of the early COVID clowns on the internet, was scripted to say in July of 2025 that we've been injecting things intramuscularly for 80 years, which is a surprisingly, accurate ping for when I'm saying this kind of was started. I think Mark and I have come up with a pretty good, reasonable, parsimonious explanation for why that around the early 1900s, 1910, 1915, 1920, it had become very customary, especially maybe for the well-to-do, to inject morphine and opiates for local pain relief, but also recreational use. If you have the means, heroin is fantastic. And this led to intramuscular injection of opiates, and intramuscular injection of opiates may have led to the intramuscular injection of other things. And once this kind of spun out of control, the only real alternative was to bring this back to only the doctors having the injections. And so that's why I think that there is a lot of evidence, including from very early comics, like this one from, I'm not sure what year this is from. Let me look for a second. Maybe I don't want to really open it. But let me just slip this under here. This is a Green Lantern, Green Arrow. Oh yeah, there it is. It's from November. It's 25 cents. I think it's from like the 60s. I would have to open it up to see. But this is about more deadly than the atomic bomb is actually injected, drugs. And so it's interesting that previously we've already had this problem in America, and I would again suggest that this cannot be by accident. It is a hamster wheel. That's why the atomic bomb is here, and it's accepted as one of the ways that the world could end. But another way that the world could end is drug use, and it's an interesting sort of foreshadowing of what seems to be happening today, that no one else seems to be able to say except for Mark and I. And unfortunately, the only reason why I know is because of Mark. Otherwise, I would also not understand how it was used to create this perceived loss of life expectancy in America, and how they have so conveniently blamed it on a novel virus from a laboratory. So I tried to teach these ideas to Children's Health Defense, but they don't do specifics. They just do a big top 10 of health freedom. They gave a podcast to the trader Jessica 5 Degrees Rose instead of giving me a podcast, and actually fired me for what I was doing on my own personal podcast, specifically talking about Robert Malone as a trader and a scripter of the fraud CHD and that organization. And I suspect actually that Brandy and Tony also taught them this stuff, and that's why they're dead. I think that after really trying to work together with these people and set them on the fastest, most direct route to victory, these people were killed, and their places were taken over on stage by people who were scripted retarded, and definitely would allow the pandemic narrative to be seeded without any real intellectual resistance. I think that's where we are in America. I think these two Americans, and the fact that most Americans don't know their names, is at the heart of what has been done to us as a nation. This message is paid for by just 98 supporters. That's the reality of social media. I have worked my best to increase my messaging, and on any of these platforms, it's just zero growth. Zero. I'm warning, this is a broadcast for mature audiences only. America has definitely been sabotaged. We are being governed by a theater right now. The theater may be more malevolently aimed at conservative America, because conservative America needs more noise or needs more distraction, or potentially even is the target of the sabotage more than the left. I don't really know. I need help figuring that out. But I do know this. Here's a question for you. Do you think that conservative America was tricked into choosing Donald Trump twice? If I was asked that question, I would say no. And if you answered yes, then you are wrong. That's not right. I really do not think that's right. The actual thing that happened, and I think this is really underscoring the power of social media and the power of governance by podcast actor, is that America has been tricked into believing they chose Donald Trump twice. But I don't think America would ever choose Trump by a majority. I don't think America would have chosen Barack Obama as the first black American president were they given other choices, other black leaders. Now, I don't purport to say I know who all those black leaders are, but I'm sure there are plenty. The guy who invented all the Nerf guns, all the Nerf toys, like, and a million other patents. That engineer's a black man. He would have been better than Barack Obama, I'm sure. And so there are plenty of black Americans that all of America would have been happy to vote for. Barack Obama was not one of them, but we were tricked into believing they chose Barack Obama twice. We were tricked into believing we chose George W. Bush. And once you start to understand it, then you'll understand better why all of these podcast actors are so ridiculous. Sometimes it's just like, wow, how is it possible? But then you realize that we have been tricked into believing those people are real, and they are being told by the directors of the show that they are believed to be real. And in fact, I think by a lot of social media users, they are. So I'm going to give you a little example of the scripted national security actors and how it works. So this is it should already be enough for you to see how scripted retarded works. But Eric Weinstein, the mathematical mind, is that thumbnail there. And Eric Weinstein is supposedly, according to Wikipedia, somebody who's got a unique take on a theory of everything, which again is like saying that he's got an alternative idea on how to run a large corporate hospital, but he's never worked in a corporate hospital, and he doesn't really know how to write it down and explain it to you. He's never had a job doing it. It's never really been proven. But he has a theory on how to run corporate hospitals better than they've ever been run before. Now, that statement is quite a bit less ridiculous than saying that as a podcast actor with no faculty position, no government support, no real career of any kind to mention, has a theory of everything that, is, kind of like saying that he's worth thinking about the same way that Einstein's worth thinking about. That is just stupid. But of course, we're supposed to believe that because he works for, or at one time worked as, the financial advisor for Peter Thiel and Thiel Capital. So this is already a hamster wheel of dumbness, because in order to believe that Eric Weinstein is real, the only thing you're required to do is take Peter Thiel's word for it. So the gay space vampire says that Eric Weinstein used to be his, I guess, financial advisor, and that's why he's got so much money and was able to start Palantir.
Stop lying! Stop lying!
And so that doesn't make any sense. And so instead, what I would like to suggest to you is that that's already enough evidence for you to understand that's got to be bullshit, because Peter Thiel is full of shit and Eric Weinstein is full of shit, and the only real reason why anybody believes that they're not full of shit is because they themselves say that the other one isn't full of shit. In fact, Peter Thiel was one of the first guests on the now non-existent Portal podcast hosted by this fraud. Now, how does social media make this illusion almost appear solid? Well, this is the way it works. I'm going to change this picture to code in a few things. So, first of all, you can have people like the brightly colored images who are wholly national security actors. Whatever they say is bullshit and is on script. And so for sure, the head of the NIH, the head of the FDA, this podcast actor, and that guy who works with Ro Khanna all probably think that Eric Weinstein is a smart guy. They might not be very familiar with his theory of everything, but they know for sure that he used to be an advisor to Peter Thiel. Certainly not going to question him as a smart guy. The podcast actors, which are colored in green, of course, have already interviewed him and been stunned by his, ability to teach them lots of things. And so they're all very impressed. The ones in red, of course, have already been scripted to say that Weinstein is a clown, and they've followed through with that script and said why he's a clown and made fun of his Joe Rogan appearances or something like that. And so what you have is a wall. Some people are just on script because they're actors. Some people are on script because they've agreed to accept a national security actor role. And some people are on script because they believe it. But Eric Weinstein is an incredible fraud. And if you want to understand anyone that's important, you would be focused on his dad. And the same can be said for Brett Weinstein, who was publicly installed into our consciousness by an elaborate hoax at Evergreen University that was pretty meticulously filmed and documented so that it could be circulated as widely as possible to anybody that needed, again, a champion. And so we have been encouraged during the last 6 years to follow and judge and choose a champion and ignore all the other people that might not have it right or might be saying it wrong, because there's always a champion out there for you. If it's not Whitney Webb, maybe it'll be Cheryl Hines. Maybe it'll be Joy Behar, or maybe it'll be Nick Fuentes. Who knows who your hero is? It does not matter, because you're choosing from the gladiators that they have in their stalls. You're choosing from the actors that they have backstage. And so if the script doesn't have Tulsi Gabbard being vice president next year, or if it doesn't fit with what the audience claps for, they can substitute AOC. No problem. These kinds of script changes are easy because the actors already know the third rails. The actors already know the beats. The actors already know how to respond to certain other beats. And so by now, these people are all fantastic at talking about Eric Weinstein and knowing exactly how to be skeptical, but at the same time not. That's how this works. And even Alex Jones, a guy who can trace his roots back to the Bohemian Grove and videos going viral with Joe Rogan. Even this guy is part of this illusion, and it doesn't seem to break the spell. But understand what I'm trying to say. If you think that you have to be an idiot for falling for Donald Trump, and you think you have to be an idiot for falling for Alex Jones or falling for any particular list of the conservative right clown show, if you think you must be an idiot to fall for Donald Trump, then you yourself also fell for the trap. Why? Because you believe these people are real and that your fellow Americans are just dumb. And what you should understand is that what is reality is that the only way to explain these people's existence is that your fellow Americans aren't dumb, and they needed a military style, military scale, military time horizon operation to neutralize them, to make sure that their skepticism would never usefully aid American citizens from rejecting governance by podcast. And so this is what I think I have to do for work for the rest of my life, or until we win, which I don't know what that will be. We need a nationwide AM broadcast that says this. We need a nationwide AM broadcast that regularly announces that America is under attack, but you can free yourself from the trap by simply removing yourself from social media, not voting for anyone that uses it, not encouraging any child to use it, and instead working hard to support any effort that you can find to build the independent alternative. We should have independent public broadcasting. That's what the independent bright web should be. It should be a weaponized pile of money that does its best to provide an infrastructure for people to freely communicate. And it should provide a mechanism by which trustworthy Americans can be safely and effectively promoted to other Americans interested in connecting with other trustworthy, patriotic Americans who understand where we are. Because Alex Jones is not a real person. He is playing a character. Podcasts are not real. America is being sabotaged. I'm going to take some notes here to see if we can make any sense of this. I don't think it will be easy. I think it will be an exercise in comedy, actually, but I'm going to do it anyway.
The old globalist system has fallen, and now there is a power vacuum with the major powers of the world trying to flood in to grab all the different resources and different things to establish the new political landscape. And I would use the analogy of The Hobbit, where at the end of the book, they've killed Smaug, and he's got the biggest treasure trove in the world that he'd stolen from the dwarves. And so the 5 different races of Middle-earth hear about it, and they all go rushing towards the Lonely Mountain to try to get control of the giant treasure hoard. And that's where we are right now. And so China's running around grabbing stuff from the Philippines and Vietnam and moving into Africa and Latin America and trying to get the Panama Canal. And Russia just wants to secure its borders and not be attacked by Europe, that openly says their business model is to take over Russia, which is totally insane, and, quote, break it in 5 pieces. So we're going back to what was always done before. And under the globalists, they were doing it corporately, going around taking over the world and proliferating weapons. So we are now entering the battle of 5 armies. But instead of 5 armies...
I do have to just say that I really like the dudes on the goats. They're the best. Why did that go forward? The dudes on the goats are the best. That's just a giant bighorn sheep as a mount. They looked a little too frumpy to me. I mean, they should have been more graceful, but a bighorn sheep as a mount, you know, armored would be pretty dope. Let's get that going again. Why is that? There we go.
The old globalist system has fallen, and now there is a power vacuum with the major powers of the world trying to flood in and to grab all the different resources and different things to establish the new political landscape. And I would use the analogy of The Hobbit, where at the end of the book, they've killed Smaug, and he's got the biggest treasure trove in the world that he'd stolen from the dwarves. And so the 5 different races of Middle-earth hear about it, and they all go rushing towards the Lonely Mountain to try.
Now, I'm not saying that Alex Jones is a smart guy or that he's right. What I'm saying is that you cannot explain his existence based on the stupidity of people that use the internet. You can't. That's not how he rose to power. That's not why he has the followers that he has. He has the followers that he has because he has been put in front of people, and he continues to be put in front of people, and people continue to click because they are continually served him. Just like if they were served me 40 times with 40 different thumbnails every week, eventually a lot of people would click on me. This is a military operation. He is not real. He is not a symptom of America. He does not represent a phenomenon in America, a natural phenomenon that is Alex Jones. He is part of a military theater. You don't need to believe that there is a huge segment of America that loves or adores this man. It is a tiny fraction of people that take him seriously. The rest are bored. But we are made to believe this. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. does not disown this guy. Joe Rogan loves this man, can only blame his rise on this guy, was probably recruited as part of the same time as this guy. So Alex Jones and Laura Loomer and Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson are all part of the same clown show. They're all in one clown car. And they discredit each other. You can't like Tucker Carlson and roll your eyes at Alex Jones because they're all in the same car. They're all on the same squad. These are the generals, right, of the Harlem Globetrotters. They're never going to win. They are scripted to lose. These guys are scripted to discredit American conservatism and maybe even American culture as a whole around the world. And everybody outside of America that sees Alex Jones as a representation of a significant number of Americans, that sees Tucker Carlson as a representative of a significant number of Americans, or Donald Trump as a representation or a representative of a significant number of Americans, American culture and the idea of it, the ideals of it, the concept of it will be slowly destroyed around the world and in the minds of our own children. Unless we get them off social media, and then they won't see any of these clowns. They won't come to assume the working assumptions of these clowns, and more importantly, they won't come to think of them as representative of what America is.
To get control of the giant treasure hoard. And that's where we are right now. And so China's running around grabbing stuff from the Philippines and Vietnam and moving into Africa and Latin America and trying to get the Panama Canal. And Russia just wants to secure its borders and not be attacked by Europe, that openly says their business model is to take over Russia, which is totally insane, and, quote, break it in 5 pieces. So we're going back to what was always done before. And under the globalists, they were doing it corporately, going around taking over the world and proliferating weapons. So we are now entering the battle of 5 armies. But instead of 5 armies, it's the Chi-Coms, the Russians. You've got... the America First Trump people. You've got the British Empire playing both sides. The EU and the U.S. off against each other. Then you've got Islam. And then you've got Christians standing up for what's right and getting politically involved in praying.
So the battle of the 5 armies, according to this guy, and this is why I think it's important to do these silly little things here. According to this guy, the Battle of the Five Armies consists of the Chi-Coms, the Russians, the America First Trump people, the British Empire playing both sides against each other, both sides being the US and the UK, the EU, I think is what he said. And so the British Empire is playing the EU against the US and vice versa. I don't know what the British Empire for now. We'll just assume that he means the Commonwealth of Nations. It could also very easily be the remnants of or the descendant of one of the oldest weaponized piles of money on earth, the East India Company, based in the city of London. Islam is an interesting, bad guy group. Christians who are politically involved and also praying are one of the five armies, also fighting against the Russians, also fighting against America First Trump people, which are different than the Christians that are politically involved and praying. The British Empire is different than the Chi-Coms. I don't know who the Coms are, the Chi-Coms. So it's interesting because I think that this would, again, reveal it. It just reveals him as a scripted clown. But more importantly, it should reveal Donald Trump as a scripted clown. It should reveal Joe Biden as a scripted clown. It should reveal Donald Trump as a scripted clown. It should reveal Barack Obama as a scripted clown. You can't take the evaluation of Barack Obama being the greatest conservative president ever, independent of what happens with Donald Trump and then with Biden and then with Trump. You can't take what happens as on 9/11 as an event independent of what came before it for 20 years and what came after it for 20 years. That is just a ridiculously retarded way of trying to understand the world as independent events and independent theater productions, because that would be ridiculous. It's all one cast, which means the theater is continuous with crescendos and breaks between the acts. But the reality is that there is no explanation for Tony Fauci being where he was for 40 years, just like there's no explanation for somebody like Joe Rogan or somebody like Alex Jones being where they are and as financially successful as they are, unless it's just by scripted design.
So I guess there is the Battle of Five Armies. And that's where we're at. So when I sit here and play by play, I'm going to look at the angles, why the Russians want this, why the Chinese want that, what the U.S. wants, what Trump's doing. And I'm also going to talk about what would the Democrats do if they were in right now. They would just allow all the stuff to happen, for us to be isolated, for us to be taken over, to let Europe continue to attack Russia, which further creates BRICS and kills the dollar and ends up destroying the U.S., which the left is on the Chi-Com payroll. So that's why they're doing it. They know. They're not inept. They're not idiots with their policy the last 3.5 years.
So it's the wrong conclusion, and I can't say it's enough. It's wrong conclusion to think that half of America is so dumb and so ridiculous that they trust these people. There are no alternatives on the internet. The alternatives are Alex Jones light. The alternatives are the health freedom movement. The alternatives are the anti-vax movement. The alternatives are ICANN and CHD and all these other frauds. And so your family and friends didn't stand a chance.
Driving Russia, now almost 4 years, into the arms of China, in direct countervention of every U.S. policy before that. And the EU is only the U.S. They can't do this. They want to drag us into war. So it's great that Trump's trying to stop that. But I just call again balls and strikes. The Venezuela thing, I get why he did it from his perspective. He's not a bad person. Maybe it'll be successful. But I've said the militias aren't going to give up.
So again, Alex Jones accepts that Donald Trump is the mastermind. Donald Trump is making the calls. Donald Trump is moving the pieces. Donald Trump has to tap the chess clock. Every time he moves a piece, it's ridiculous. It's absurd. Just like it would be absurd to think that, oh no, it's Peter Thiel who's actually doing it and Elon Musk are actually running the show because they donated money and stuff. And because, J.D. Vance also used to work for Peter Thiel, so obviously they're just running it. That's also dumb. Peter Thiel has not been captured on film saying anything profound because genius cannot be faked. Elon Musk has never been captured on film saying anything profound because genius cannot be faked. They know that genius cannot be faked. That's why they don't even bother. That's why Jeff Bezos has never been filmed saying something profound. That's why Zuckerberg has never been filmed saying anything profound. And if anybody labels a video of any of these people as being profound, just watch it and you will see that the label's wrong. You can't capture genius on film that doesn't exist.
Months ago, it's going to degenerate. Maybe there's enough pressure with the oil embargo and stuff to get them to back down, but they're not going to make a deal, I don't think. And so Trump's telling Venezuelans, here in other countries, oh, get down there, take your country back. So really, this is all up in the air right now. The battle of five armies. We're not fighting for Smog's gold. We're fighting for the whole future of the new political paradigm. And I'll tell you, I'll take Trump and his worldview of prosperity and freedom and sovereignty and pro-America and overall general peace between world powers over the Klaus Schwab New World Order globalist system that's already failed and is anti-human. So again, it doesn't mean that I endorse it all or like it all, but it's where we are. It's the cards we've been dealt.
See? That's the narrative. That's the cards we've been dealt. Just like, the lab leak is just the cards we've been dealt. It's the mystery we have solved. And so I can't stress enough, this is obviously bullshit. It's obviously...
So let's be adults about that and then decide what do we do. Today only, 47% off store-wide on all the supplements, all the products, and more. And this is one of those days, it only comes every few months, where you get put in 50x every time you order anything with a sweepstakes on 2 incredible super off-road vehicles.
Yes, so scripted national security actors. America is being governed by theater. I'm certain of that.
Yeah. Vice President, what is your specific role in the future of Venezuela? And I'm wondering, could you confirm reports that the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, was kept out of the planning for the operations because of her past concerns about military involvement in Venezuela?
So I've heard a couple of things. One, that I was kept out of the planning for the...
So someone who spent almost no time in governance, someone with a history that includes writing a book, I guess, and having a movie made about the book where he told his grandma that he thought he was gay. This guy has no relevant experience as a leader, as a community builder, as a teacher, as a coach. But we're supposed to believe that he's vice president and he's one of the smart people in the room. Remember that in the history of the vice presidency is generally speaking, except for Dick Cheney, not really, the guy who does all the smart stuff. It's like shows up at all the events that the president doesn't have time for. And yet now we are told that Donald Trump and this guy and a bunch of others are a team of people, a team of apparently podcast actors that are driving the behemoth that is the American military-industrial complex.
Stop lying!
That's absurd. And if you listen to the way that he talks about it, you will see immediately that it's absurd. Now remember, this guy is supposed to be second in charge of the most important military-industrial complex in the world, the largest economy in some ways in the world, certainly the most important one in the sense that the fiat pyramid is based on the dollar. and that this guy has been given the controls. This guy has been given the keys. This guy's been given all the passwords, and the only guy who has more passwords, or let's say the other guy who has to turn the other key, is a guy by the name of Donald Trump. And they have tricked America into believing that enough Americans believed in Donald Trump that that's where we are. This is just the hand we've been dealt.
Stop lying!
That's a lie. This is a national security theater that is designed to control, demolish America's self-image, how we see ourselves. It is absolutely, positively, militarily optimized to make us ashamed to be American. And more importantly, for the rest of the West to be ashamed of America, disappointed in America. I think we can change this messaging. I think we can overcome it, but only if we identify it as the military operation that it is. The sabotage of American culture by American traitors on a script cooperating with international foreign meddlers that are at the head of the FDA and NIH right now, the head of CMS. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an emergency. The head of DITRA, the head of US AMRID, these are all foreigners.
The Venezuela operation, that's false. And another that Tulsi was kept out of the planning for Venezuela operations, that's completely false. Look, we're all part of the same team. And one of the things that is really amazing about that operation is that we kept it very tight to the senior cabinet level.
We kept it very tight. That's very amazing. We were able to use social media and not spill the secrets of running the most important operation ever. It's the largest, highest level of global security level clearance there is, as far as anybody will talk about. This is the shiznit. And this is the guy. That's just absurd. It's absurd. It's absurd. This guy has no more power than the mouse at Chuck E. Cheese.
Level officials and related officials in our government, and we kept this operation secret for a very long time. I'm very proud of that. I think it suggests that the team works very well together.
I want you to understand that they have kept the motivation of this governance by theater classified in secret for more than 20 years. They have kept the governance by podcast actor, governance by scripted media actor secret for more than 20 years. So bragging about being able to keep secret an operation that was planned for a few weeks is just stupid. Scripted, retarded.
Well, looking ahead, what is my role? Look, my role is going to be whatever the president asks me to do.
Has he asked you to do something yet?
Well, every other day, I'm chairing the meeting that we do on this among White House principals to talk about next steps to try to ensure that Venezuela is stable, and as the president has directed us to do, to ensure that the new Venezuelan government actually listens to the United States and does what the United States needs it to do under our country's best interest. So I'm going to be as involved as the president wants me to be. So far, that's been very involved, and I'll keep on doing that so long as the president asks me to do it.
Wait just a second. We have one more thing to share.
We want to say a heartfelt thank you for watching and supporting PBS News.
So we're supposed to believe that PBS News, now that there's been funding cuts, doesn't have enough money to run their weekend PBS News anymore. They just shut that down. And now they're asking for donations on a nightly basis. They're asking for donations from YouTube to support what? To support their $200,000 a year salary each, to support the $100,000 a year salary of all the staff that work here? This is a very malevolent trap, ladies and gentlemen, because everybody asking for money on Patreon, everybody asking for money from donations, for Bitcoin, for all this supplement sales, they are all traitors to our grandchildren. I don't know how to say it any better than that. There's nobody out there. There's nobody you can trust on social media with a following. There's nobody that you can trust on social media with a following. I don't know what to say other than that. It's dark. I'm going to continue to try to work as best as I can, as hard as I can, to bring you this information as I develop it. There's going to be a little stagnation here right now with regard to the biology and the books, because this is going to be the year that we release them, and we're not just going to release them funny. We're not going to release them chapter by chapter on somebody like Substack. We're going to do it right. There is going to be an in-person event for Gigaohm Biological in Bethel Park, Pennsylvania this year in the summer. There is also going to be a Houstonic live Bio 9/11 Truth event. I don't know if these events are going to be the same event or different events. Those things are still being planned. But for the time being right now, I can tell you that Monday through Friday, Jonathan Couey out of Gigaohm Biological out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, will be broadcasting live reality as I can see it. And it will be broadcast live on PeerTube for the foreseeable future, as well as some other platforms occasionally to, again, throw a ladder down into the cave and hope some people will come out. But the vast majority of our broadcasts in 2026 will not be on any of these platforms because they don't belong to me and they don't belong to you. I don't know what I want to play, so I'm just going to play something that always makes me happy. I love you all very much. Thanks for being here. Thanks for the patience. I'll see you again tomorrow.
Can
See you guys tomorrow around 11:11 Eastern Time. Thanks for being here. See you again.